Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for being here for State of BioMed 2023, and a special welcome to all the families that are joining us for Family Weekend. Before I get to my formal remarks, I want to take a minute at the outset to acknowledge the political unrest and human suffering, which is traumatic and painful for all. My thoughts, our thoughts of our entire community, are with the individuals and families most directly affected by the violence and those who remain in fear as conflict persists. One of the most important things we can do in a moment like this is to support each other as fellow community members. I wanted you to know our focus has been to support the health and well-being of our community, particularly our BioMed students, faculty, staff. We encourage those who are impacted by global crisis to reach out to a number of campus-based offices for guidance and support, including the Student Support Services, Global Brown, the Office of the Chaplains in Religious Life, Counseling and Psychological Services, the Employee Assistance Program, and the Office of International Student and Scholar Services. With that, I'm going to now move to the formal part of my remarks. And in my remarks today, I want to begin where we left off last year, then update you on efforts that touch on each of the pillars of our mission, and conclude with some reflections. At last year's inaugural State of BioMed address, I dedicated my remarks to the unusual origins of this uniquely kindred community we call the Division of Biology and Medicine. Our faculty, trainees, staff, and alums are distributed across the three entities shown for you on this slide. And I reviewed our collective contributions to 50 years of medicine at Brown. I concluded last year's address by reflecting on the moment at hand, which, if seized, would set the stage for the next 50 years with the following comment. There are rare moments in history where the convergence of disparate forces unveils an opportunity that, if seized, can lead to transformative impact. We are in such a moment. A year has passed. Much has transpired. But my confidence in this statement, which may have rightfully been viewed by some with a jaundiced eye a year ago, has only strengthened. Indeed, I firmly believe we are in one of the most consequential moments in the history of the division. Why is this such a consequential moment? It is consequential because the ambitious and comprehensive vision advanced over a year ago was embraced by the university leadership. And this did not happen by accident. It happened because of the remarkable work that our faculty, students, staff, alum have achieved for more than half a century. And critically, it happened in recognition of the full promise, the full potential of what we in BioMed can achieve. That is what the university embraced. That is what the university supported. It is a consequential moment because of the new and enhanced relationships and a shared vision that we cultivated and now enjoy with our health systems, community, and government partners. It is a consequential moment because of the remarkable new leaders that now grace our community. 2 new health system CEOs and a provost who are experienced, thoughtful, committed, and kind. All of this is enormously exciting, and I am proud that we, in BioMed, have been central to the aforementioned efforts that collectively position Rhode Island for impact within and well beyond its borders. But I do not say this in boast. Quite the contrary. Actually, I feel great pressure. Now, some of my colleagues have been quick to remind me that tennis legend Billie Jean King once said, "Pressure is a privilege. It only comes to those who earn it." So I say to all of you, our biology and clinical faculty, our trainees at all levels, undergrad, grad, medical, postgrad, our staff across the university and hospital systems, and our alums. Yes, we, as the Division of Biology and Medicine, have worked really hard and are now being given an opportunity to lead and to impact Brown, the community, and beyond. And being afforded such an opportunity is truly a privilege. However, with privilege comes great responsibility. And that responsibility we all bear is to actualize our full potential in a manner consonant with the trust that has been placed in us. For me, that aspiration is crystallized in the following reimagined, pithy mission statement: to advance knowledge and improve the health and well-being of people and planet. I know it's a remarkably simple statement, but it is hardly easy. Knowledge creation is hard. Impacting health of people and planet, even harder. But this is what we do. We create knowledge. We convey knowledge to the next generation, and we seek to translate that knowledge to improve the health of people and planet. It is hard to think of an entity that does more to directly impact the health and well-being of our region than our BioMed community. And we do it, to paraphrase President Kennedy, not because it is easy, but because it is hard and because it is important. In last year's address, I shared a new framework for the division, one guided by 4 pillars and supported by a foundation of belonging, equity, diversity, inclusivity, wellness that permeates all we do. Over the next few minutes, I'd like to share progress and challenges across each of these domains. And I'll begin with education. And the slide you're looking at provides an overview of the major education strategic efforts. And I wish to touch upon a few realized initiatives. I'll just say at the outset, this has certainly been an incredibly eventful year in education. As many of you know, the Warren Alpert Medical School joined over a dozen leading medical schools and withdrew from U.S. News and World Report. This action reflects our view that the metrics used by U.S. News to determine the rank order are not consistent with the values that we believe are important for one to become a successful physician, nor do the metrics adequately capture the quality of the education or the level of support provided to students at this medical school. We're also dealing with the aftermath of the U.S. Supreme Court decision on race-conscious admissions and how best to maintain diversity in all our training programs. Historically, we've actually done quite well in cultivating a diverse student body. But in light of the SCOTUS decision, maintaining this will require work. The good news, however, is that we have strong initiatives and programs in place to ensure that we continue to cultivate a diverse and robust student population. Our pathway, early identification, gateway programs for medical students, or the Brown Initiative to maximize student development, which for 15 years has a track record of developing a diverse pool of scientists earning a PhD degree. While the excellence of our medical education curriculum is well recognized nationally, it is important to periodically self-reflect. As such, we will continue to reevaluate our curriculum and ensure that we are optimally preparing students for residency and beyond. For example, integration of longitudinal threads throughout the 4 years, examining the ratio of preclinical to clinical experience, and additional preparation prior to residency. We believe reimagining our curriculum and assessment of students will ensure that we stay at the forefront of medical education nationally. We also see great opportunity in enhancing connectivity across our educational programs between undergraduate and medical students, particularly within the Program in Liberal Medical Education, or PLEME program. This will be amongst the many priorities that PLEME leadership and administration will be focusing on. We now have over 100 biology courses, from the ecological sciences to neuroscience, immunology, cancer, and more that we offer our students. And we provide enhanced opportunities for experiential learning, especially in research and innovation spaces where our students are very eager. For example, annually, more than 400 undergraduates pursue mentored research in all corners of this division. We also anticipate growth in our graduate programs, efforts fortified by new partnerships like that with the Blavatnik Family Foundation, which provides support to advanced doctoral students. This fall, we selected an inaugural cohort of 8 Blavatnik Family Fellows that will enjoy financial support and opportunities to engage with Blavatnik trainees nationally. And over the next year, we will be augmenting the size of our Masters in Biotechnology program, a highly impactful initiative that prepares students for careers in industry, business, and graduate studies. Our next pillar is research, with major strategic efforts noted for you. The breadth of research within the division is truly remarkable. It was one of the draws for me to Brown. For our investigators, their work spans fundamental discovery across the major kingdoms of life, to clinical trials in patients and assessments of interventions at the level of populations. And it is also noteworthy that our faculty's collective research expenditures in 2022 exceeded $260 million, constituting 60% of the university's research portfolio. Our roadmap for research impact is shown for you here. It emphasizes the importance of critical infrastructure, anchor programs, partnerships, and innovation. And over the past year, there have been a number of major advances across these domains that I believe will fundamentally and durably accelerate the trajectory of life sciences in our community. Top of mind is the commitment to a new integrated life sciences building, the largest capital project in the university's history. It also places great expectations on raising resource, and I want to recognize the foundational success in fundraising for ILSB. We've also identified anchor programs that will be housed in the new building, like cancer, brain science, immunity, infectious disease, and aging, along with cross-cutting efforts in RNA and biomedical engineering. And while these areas represent focus in laboratory research, we will also be supporting clinical and population research, be it in the domains of global health, behavioral medicine, or health informatics implementation science, to name a few. Partnerships are critical because large-scale initiatives are hard to achieve in isolation. A first example of this is our partnership with both health systems and the School of Public Health to integrate life sciences research under a singular entity, the Brown Innovation and Research Collaborative for Health, better known as BIRCH. This long-sought yet elusive aspiration for the past quarter century was happily achieved late last year. We also have had the privilege to partner with the Warren Alpert Foundation to support the evaluation of a transformative initiative by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine focused on RNA science. I am proud to say that members of our community played a central role in catalyzing this effort, termed the Human RNome Project. If funded by Congress, the Human RNome Project will be one of the largest scientific endeavors since the Human Genome Project. Lastly, realize partnerships with the Rhode Island Foundation and state leaders supported the passing of the Life Sciences Hub Act, a $45 million commitment from the state to enhance biomedical innovation. I had the pleasure of joining the governor earlier today at the State House for a press conference on this issue, and I'm honored to serve on the oversight board of this effort with President Paxson. Collectively, these efforts have the potential to illuminate new biology, attract the best and brightest, and position Rhode Island as a test bed for interventions that, if impactful, can be scaled to nation and globe. And with the goal of attracting biotech, biopharma, and industry, we hope to enhance workforce opportunities and the economic vibrancy of the region. On the clinical front, I'll begin by reminding everyone that we have three major health systems: Lifespan, Care New England, and the VA Providence Healthcare System. For two of our health systems, Lifespan and Care New England, this was a critical year as they sought new chief executive officers. Both Dr. Wagner, CEO of Care New England, and Mr. Fernandez, CEO of Lifespan, have infused their respective organizations with new leaders, new vision, new culture, and in a remarkably short period of time had visible positive impact within their organizations and certainly with their relationship with Brown. The position of Brown has always been to seek closer alignment with our health system partners, and I am just thrilled that this view is now shared by our new leaders. And because of this, we've been able to continue our work collaboratively with other hospital partners across all our pillars. I already mentioned Birch and research, but that collaborative spirit extends to education, DEI, and wellness, as well as the clinical environment, evidenced by the establishment of the Brown University Labor and Delivery Center at Women and Infants Hospital. We're also working together to identify new leaders in psychiatry, diagnostic imaging, and surgery over the next year. While this is all very positive, I am also aware that a comprehensive approach to address some of the most difficult issues in healthcare for this region still elude us. Access to primary and specialty care, reimbursement rates, payer mix, to name a few. I wish to assure all of you that these issues are top of mind for me, for my colleagues within the health systems, and you can anticipate that we will be working on engaging payers, government, and other leaders to address these seemingly intractable problems over the next year. I'm going to move on to community and DEI. At last year's address, we introduced this fourth pillar, community engagement, and closely linked to this, commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. BioMed leadership acknowledged we could not shepherd the transformation of our division into an inclusive and equitable environment without critically examining our own practices and learning more about anti-racism. So we committed to a year-long training around anti-racism. In addition, we have been actively engaged with the University Community Engagement Council and are working towards a unified community-centered approach. Partnered with the School of Public Health to co-lead the Community Engagement Council Committee on Health and Medicine. Partnered with the Warren Alpert Foundation on launching a second Smart Plus clinic, a program that provides healthcare, behavioral services to middle school children and exposes them to careers in medicine. Strengthen pathways in an effort to encourage K through 12 students from local and historically minority-serving institutions to seek careers in science and healthcare. And sought ways to support our colleagues whose work positively impacts the health and well-being of Rhode Islanders, like sponsoring a day-long conference for the Community Health Workers Association of Rhode Island. We also continue to encourage discussions on topics which will have a critical impact on the future of healthcare workforce by sponsoring key symposia. And I'll highlight one. On October 26th, we will host an important day-long conference entitled Advancing Anti-Racism, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion in STEM Organizations, Beyond Broadening Participation. Committee members from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine will present their report and recommendations on advancing DEI in STEM fields. And our faculty members in BioMed, along with colleagues from engineering, physics, chemistry, will discuss programmatic successes and institutional barriers we face at the undergraduate, graduate, and faculty levels. Dr. Tyndall, Dean of Morehouse School of Medicine, will serve as the keynote speaker. But truth be told, we still have a long way to go. Ensuring a diverse trainee, faculty, staff workforce is hard. Gaining the trust of the community will be hard and require authentic and sustained engagement. But what gives me optimism is that we have committed leaders who are prepared for making a sustained and impactful difference. Wellness is a really important topic because, stated simply, it is hard to take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself. The sources of stress are manifold: pandemic, social media, excessive workforce demands, lack of adequate support systems, social and political unrest, as I referenced at the outset. All of this leads to a level of chronic stress that can be exhausting, impacts mental and physical health, and may culminate in burnout, depression, and sometimes even addiction and suicide. This year, the Wellness Office is ramping up their efforts of providing support to students, faculty, and staff. The office is also partnering with our health systems to collaborate on best practices and approaches to supporting our community. Policy changes are underway. For example, medical students are now allowed to have one unexcused absence each semester or once per rotation, no questions asked. This frees students to seek mental health care if they need it without having to explain their absence. In June, the American Medical Association followed Brown's lead and required every medical school to better define absence policies and encourage them to allow days off without explanation. And perhaps most importantly, we are looking at the systemic issues in healthcare and education that affect wellness. We literally have someone at the table asking, how will this affect the well-being of our community when we're making decisions as leaders within BioMed? There is much more that I could discuss on each pillar, and we could easily talk for hours about our current and planned initiatives. But I want to be respectful of the audience's patience. So what does BioMed look like a year from now? Well, a year from now, we hope to be on track with the build-out of the new research building. Birch fully operationalized, our research portfolio grown, and we will have partnered with our health systems to enhance and improve healthcare in our community. We will have implemented critical educational curriculum reforms, and through all of this, stay true to our foundation and remain focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, social responsibility, and wellness. I'd like to now conclude my address where I began, with the same quote. What I did not share with you at the outset was that there was an important admonition that followed this quote, which I'll now share. I noted that there were going to be challenges for us. For a moment is by definition short-lived. Unless we have the clarity to recognize it, the courage to embrace it, and the conviction to invest ourselves in it. For that is how we convert this moment into enduring impact. I am hopeful that today there is more clarity around the moment. the opportunity we have in front of us. I am hopeful today that we as a community are willing to see ourselves as agents of change and embrace and invest in the moment. This will not be easy, and there are many challenges ahead. It will require determination and resilience. But if we can do this, we will accelerate the ascending trajectory that we enjoy today and ensure that we fulfill our reimagined, more holistic mission to advance knowledge and improve the health and well-being of people and planet. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. And now I'll happily take your questions, starting with some that were submitted prior to today. And so with a drum roll, we'll now have the questions. All right. We have a crackerjack team, so I know all the hard ones were taken out. All right. So we've selected a few. Here is one. And at times we might have taken similar questions, sort of amalgamated them into a single question. Someone asked they would like to hear more about what increasing research means for faculty practically. And so I would point anyone to a communication that came out from the interim provost last June, which outlined how the university was committing and deploying $25 million this fiscal year towards supporting and increasing research. And a number of investments that will be made will have very practical impact on faculty, increasing the number of PhD students. In fact, we enrolled the most doctoral students in BioMed in our history this fall. Investments in research equipment, maintenance, and renovations of space. New faculty hires, and a pilot program to hire more postdocs also underway. Question 2, are there any updates on support staff salaries and when they will be equalized with those at universities so we can avoid so much staff turnover? Great question, and a challenge that is being faced throughout the university, often a topic of conversation with other university leaders and health system leaders within the state. So for us, yes, this is really an important issue, and I really do understand the impact on researchers. For our staff, our partners, and they're the backbone of our efforts. So our human resources group has been working in partnership with the university on this issue, and I was able to get the latest information from them just yesterday. So our team has been working over the past several months to implement market-based pay utilizing pay factors. Please don't ask me what that is. But what good, there's an explanation. It's a sophisticated compensation software and includes real-time market data and the ability to produce market analysis and position-based salary ranges to include both higher education and all industry data. So there. But in the interim, as we are implementing and utilizing pay factors, we're also developing higher ranges for HR business partners and recruitment. And we're also using the same approach to develop and inform salary offers for all positions, whether they're loaded into pay factors or not. The third question is a number of people asked, how are we actively promoting integration across departments and hospitals? And I think this was in the context of research, and I'll just name a few. One is Birch, which I won't repeat, but I shared with you the importance of that in integrating research across our community. The second is the Innovation Fund, or the BBII, Brown Biomedical Innovation to Impact, which supports all our faculty within BioMed with seed funding, follow-on funding, and mentorship to take discovery to impact. And one of the most gratifying experiences I've had in my year and a half here was just a few weeks ago, late September, where we held for the first time a research retreat between all our basic science faculty and researchers within the clinical departments. I'm looking around and I see a lot of individuals that were at that retreat. I see some smiley faces, thank you. It was a real hit, and I think it was absolutely spectacular to have diverse science discussed. We have a very curious and impressive faculty, and we had newcomers to the community over the last few years share their research focus. And it was just a great experience, not simply from the scientific standpoint, that was great, but it was really the first opportunity for clinical researchers and basic researchers to commingle, spend a day together. Happened to be a beautiful day like today, so that helped a lot, and we hope to continue to do that on an annual basis. So at least these are some of the efforts towards integrating the community. The fourth question relates to the PLEMI program, just being mindful. Oh, we're good on time, okay. Is the PLEMI program, and they said, how does he see PLEMI reinforcing pillars, especially community engagement, because we see it shrinking in proportion to students, faculty, alumni, especially since 2010. So let me just state at the outset, there's been a lot of discussion around this topic. The PLEMI program, just as a reminder for those that may not be familiar, it's the Program in Liberal Medical Education. It is the cornerstone program of the medical school. When the medical school was first started, everybody that came into the medical school was part of the 8-year PLEMI program, BA-MD. And so it remains a cornerstone of the medical school. We accept about 55 plus or minus students in the program a year, and we're absolutely invested in its success. We've hired new leadership in Dr. Santange, who I saw somewhere, right in front of me. Whenever you look to the left or right, always look right in the front, that's where it is. And Sandy joined us just a few months ago as our new leader of PLEMI. And I think PLEMI students, frankly, impact community engagement, but they impact all the pillars within the school. The students are engaged in inquiry-based research across many concentrations. They contribute in the clinical setting. Many of them start prior to entering medical school. Their education capitalizes on the open curriculum, and they enrich it. And they certainly want to contribute to the community. And there are many examples, but a beautiful example is the Community Health Advocacy Program, or CHAP for short, a program which PLEMI student volunteers identify relevant health issues and then develop programs to address them. So I think the PLEMI program, I just want to be really clear about this. It is our cornerstone program. It is one of our medical school's strongest identities nationally. And when you have that, one seeks to protect that, preserve that, and strengthen that. And that's what we're doing with new leadership and new levels of support. And the last question I have is, with the recent emphasis on the relationship with the hospitals, what role do you see for the program in biology? So a truly outstanding academic medical center has to have research that goes across the continuum, from laboratory research, sometimes we refer to as T0 research for the aficionados in the audience, clinical trials research, usually happens in the hospitals, and then population research. And to me, I think that integration is really, really important. It, in fact, was central to the efforts to establish Birch, and that was one of the first things that I focused on, along with the new building, because we needed new research space. And I remember President Paxson saying, well, I think it's a very worthwhile cause. We've tried for 25 years. It's failed 6 times, but good luck. And we brought it to, we brought it to fruition. And it is, the only way we will succeed in that is if our laboratory investigators, clinical researchers, population researchers, distributed across the medical school, our health systems, the School of Public Health, are working together. And so I see an enormously impactful role for the basic scientists in advancing new ideas that can then be assessed in the hospital or at a population level. It also was, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the motivation for that retreat from all researchers within BioMed, basic and clinical. So I'm going to stop there. Those were the 5 questions that we had that essentially is a composite of many, many individuals asking the same thing. We have we have a good 10, 15 minutes. If there are questions, please feel free. There's microphones here on both sides. And we also have our leadership team, and strategically placed in the front, because if it's a really hard question, I'm just gonna pivot and ask someone else to answer it. So please feel free to come up and share your thoughts or ask anything that's on your mind.
Seth Berkley, graduate and faculty member. Mukesh, fabulous presentation. 2 things you didn't mention, 2 hard things that I think are important, is one, the role of technology.
Yeah.
Obviously, AI, large language models are going to be transformational, good and bad in where we're going. And I think it's an important thing as we think about the future to do. The other thing is the connection to the hospitals and those systems. It's great that they're on site, but the financing mechanisms in the US are a disaster. We don't have a health system. We have lots of systems. And how to work with the School of Public Health and other parts of the university to think about those type of reforms issues to get us back to better medical indices and others as we go forward.
Yeah, great question. So Seth, I didn't talk about AI, but it is an area of great interest, frankly, in all of healthcare, right? AI is top of mind for leaders. In fact, I think it is next Monday that the leadership of Lifespan, John Fernandez, set a meeting with Ashish Jha, myself, and I'm blanking on the 4th name, but it's really Meta, right? And it's really to focus around AI technology in healthcare. So we as a community really need to get around this. It is going to be a big part of the future. I was recently a few months ago, I was in May, I think, I went to a McKinsey healthcare conference. It was in Chicago, and half the focus was all on AI in healthcare. I don't have a firm answer for you, but I can tell you that it is top of mind for our leadership and faculty. It's also really important to our students. In fact, our students self-organized an AI interest group, and they approached me some months ago with a really great idea that they really wanted to not just have a group that meets, but they wanted to try to bring greater recognition to this issue in the community. So we're actually developing a symposium. Zach Cohane hopefully will be able to join us as our keynote speaker. We have a number of faculty. I can see, even though the lights are literally blinding, but I can see Neil Sarkar in the back. Neil, along with Liz Chen and others, will be very important as part of the conversation around AI in healthcare. So that's one. Number 2, thank you for that lob question about healthcare challenges in America. It's pretty straightforward to fix. What I would say is, look, both Dr. Wagner, CEO of Care New England, and John Fernandez of Lifespan and I have talked a lot, but I think it would require a broader effort. But we've talked a lot about the structural challenges. Healthcare is hard everywhere, and it's even harder here. And just for the audience, for those that may not be familiar with this topic, the payer mix in Rhode Island is very heavily government pay versus commercial pay. Government pay is lower than commercial pay. Number two, whether it's government pay or social or commercial pay, the rates are lower. Example, if you go into Connecticut or Massachusetts, the reimbursement rate for any medical intervention is 20 to 30% higher. That puts our community at a disadvantage in an industry that is really challenged to begin with. And so we have got to figure out solutions. And the only way I can see doing this is to have a shared vision, which I think we can now achieve. I think individuals, faculty in the School of Public Health, that would be amazing to help us with this. Obviously, Ashish knows a lot in this space. Andy Ryan would be amazing, a new faculty member from Michigan who, his research is really focused in this space. And I will also tell you that the Rhode Island Foundation has asked an external consultant to really review reimbursement rates in this state, and why is it that they are lower than 3 miles away in Massachusetts or a little bit farther in Connecticut. We like to call it, we want a book of facts so that we're all dealing with the same information, and then figure out solutions. And those solutions are going to come from our colleagues at Brown, the health systems, payers have to be at the table, government has to be at the table. We've already started to make some noise about this with our state leaders, but I think we've got to have a strategy in place before we really approach the payers and government leaders. But great question. I hope I at least, I mean, if I had an answer, I would be, it would be amazing for healthcare in general, but specific to this state, which is so challenged, we recognize it, and it is an important push over the next year. Other questions? Those were easy, so, here we go. Now we have a hard one, okay.
Hi, Dean Jain. Thanks so much for laying out your vision. I'm Jay. I'm a third-year medical student, one of the leaders of the AI interest group
yeah.
that you mentioned. So my question was, I know you mentioned that there's new resources at Brown to help faculty and others bring ideas to impact that could, help seed and follow on invest. What work are we doing as an institution to partner with external resources like venture capital and private equity to help researchers bring their innovation to impact?
Yeah, great question. And remind me before I saw Karen somewhere. There she is, Karen Bullock in the back. So I want to, Karen, can you raise your hand a little higher? I want to make sure you connect with Karen afterwards, okay? So Karen runs that program that I referenced where we do seed funding, mentorship, et cetera. But that is great, but we really at Brown do not have a dedicated person that is external facing. And absolutely focused on looking at our scientific portfolio and trying to matchmake, if you will, with the private sector, be it biotech, biopharma, industry, VC. And so over the last, started early last year, and I along with Dean Desai in engineering, and a few senior colleagues spent a lot of time over the first 6 months approximately of this year developing a roadmap for innovation impact. That roadmap was shared with President Paxson and our new provost, Frank Doyle. Frank, by the way, has a lot of experience in this space as well. He's an engineer and has started companies and really understands the importance of this. So what I think you'll hear over the next few months is much more clarity around how Provost Doyle, as the chief academic officer for the university, wants to implement not only the tech transfer office, which already exists, but really this other component that's missing. And so great question, and it's something that I believe will get implemented, I would say, by the next academic year, and you'll hear more about it in the months to come.
That's very exciting. Thank you so much.
Oh, hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff Borkin, Family Medicine. So first of all, thanks for your talk and the energy and direction you brought to the school. Question was about primary care, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
We, by a lot of measures, are in a crisis regarding primary care. This medical school started as a primary care medical school, We did a survey of graduates of graduate medical education for 2023, and only 14% of the 230 are going into primary care,
Yeah.
IM, FM, Peds,
Yeah.
Med Peds. What might the medical school be able to do to strengthen this area, which has been really one of the foundation stones for the medical school?
Yeah. So I might ask Dean Hampton to comment on it, but let me start. So it's a great question, Jeff, and we are certainly in a primary care crisis, and I hear it all the time. The medical school, and I'll let Star comment on in a second on what we are doing with respect to programs, but I got to tell you, Jeff, if you think that it is the medical school, we want to do better, and we should do better, and we should have more students going to primary care, but you and I both know that is part of the issue, but I don't think it's actually the major issue. You and I both know that the major issue is a financial one. You can crank out as many medical students going to primary care, and they'll train elsewhere. Let's say we put in incentives for them to stay here and train here, that would be great. And then they will practice 4 miles outside of Rhode Island in Massachusetts. The issue is reimbursement rate. It comes back to the issue of health care and reimbursement rates for the state. That's one. Number two, what are immediate things that I think as a community, and this would require the state to do, is loan repayment forgiveness, for example. That would be very, very impactful. There are other ways where you can support people at different stages of their career, but I think it's fundamentally a financial challenge. And people leave medical school with debt. Primary care is not the highest paid specialty to begin with, and then it's even amplified more in a state where reimbursement rates are lower and salaries are lower. Let me just be on the medical school side. I just want to start anything to. There's a microphone.
Yeah, everything that Dean Jain has said, I obviously echo, and Jeff, you and I have talked about this, so you probably know what I'm going to say also. But, just one other thing to add to that is that our students are learning, right, and their mentors in the primary care space are working within this system. And so they are seeing their models, right, who are teaching them primary care are working within a system that's also not favorable to those physicians that are working within it, that are modeling to our students. But for those that don't know, that might be listening to this call, the school also has a fantastic program called PCPM, Primary Care Population Medicine, which tracks 16 students a year to get an MD and a master's at the same time, with a focus on population health and primary care, which Dr. Borkin helps lead and was founding father of. But we are very focused on this. We really want our students to think about primary care population health, our communities. We have service learning as an important part of our medical school curriculum for our students to really understand taking care of communities and the populations that we are within. So lots of focus on this, but I think Dean Jain and I have had this conversation before, and much of what he says is I obviously agree with. It's very financial and does not start here at the medical school.
Oh boy, Anita's coming to the microphone. All right.
All right.
I think we're out of time. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
I'm really amazed at how much you've accomplished in such a short time. I just think it's fantastic. And among the things that you're working on that I'm very excited about are the connections between the campus and the hospitals, and also building research, but all at the same time realizing that wellness counts, and that faculty can continue to try to do research, but if they don't have enough staff and the staff are not well enough supported, then it's going to be really difficult. And so now I'm going to mention something that sounds very mundane, but affects both of those aspects, and that is parking and other aspects of transportation, because as many of you know. probably not so much you because you have parking space in both places, but it's really difficult for
I'm willing
anyone,
to give one up.
almost anyone.
Sorry,
No,
go
if
ahead.
you could make it, clone it maybe. But it's really difficult for anyone to find parking. We have people coming from hospitals to lecture in courses and things.
Yeah.
On campus, they have no place to park. You know, class starts 20 minutes late for that reason or something.
Oh, boy.
We have PhD students who have to do either rotation or thesis research at Ship Street. They have no place to park. One student, a fourth-year student, told me that she was on a wait list for a year to get into the Richmond parking garage, and now she pays $700 a month to do that, which is a lot of money for a graduate student.
Yeah.
And then, luckily there is parking if you work at one of the hospitals. Sometimes there's parking, but the campus and around the medical school is really, really tight for everyone, and I find that really limits not only interaction between all those people in BioMed, but also when we bring in people from outside, they don't have a place to go, or they have to park like a mile away from where they're giving their lecture. It's just, and I know that this is a university problem. This is not a BioMed problem specifically, but you have some clout, so maybe you can do something. I mean, I waited 8 years to get into a parking lot at Brown. This was like 30 some years ago, and then I was moved from lot to lot because my lots were taken up with buildings, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't even BioMed. One was a BioMed building, one was something else. And I think that there's this constant need somehow of the university to build more buildings, but not make places to park for people, and that's a huge source of stress. And a problem with wellness.
So it is, it sounds like a mundane, but it's such a practical and practically important issue. So thanks for raising it, Anita. What I will tell you is, look, and this is going to be an issue that we're dealing a lot with here too, because we're going to be building the new building, and parking is a big part. And we want to make sure that we reduce barriers for collaboration between all our faculty and students, not enhance them. So I will acknowledge to you that I may not be as, on top of the issues as I should be, but I wanted to ask maybe if Kim, Lifeline, whatever that show was, I have a Lifeline, and Kim Galligan to comment on it.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Anita, and I will say that John Leopold, who is the vice president for, I'm going to mess up his title, Real Estate and Auxiliary Services and something else. It's expanded over time, but he recently took on auxiliary, I can't even say the word. He took on parking, and he's been tasked by the university with rethinking the parking plan, and he's doing a study right now thinking about with hybrid work and folks off-site. We have employees who are paying for parking 5 days a week. They're coming in 1 day a week. We have folks who've been on wait list for years and they can't get in a lot. And so I think John is studying that at this moment, and he's supposed to deliver results back to the university, and we should be hearing, I would say, within the next couple of months, hopefully a long-term plan.
Also considering turning some lots into parking garages. I think that would be helpful as well.
I don't know how far it's going to go, but I know parking is an issue, as you point out, throughout across the campus. It's made worse when we're doing construction. The Performing Arts Center was a great stress on our folks in the BioMed Center and Sidney Frank Hall.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I believe they've heard. I don't know what the solutions are going to be yet, but John has been a real partner in a variety of issues for BioMed, and I've seen him work throughout the university. So I'm really encouraged that he's taking a look at this, and I think Sarah Latham, the executive vice president of the university, has heard these issues and really kind of the cries from faculty and staff as well. So it does seem to be getting a lot of attention at the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Jain. I'm a new parent of the university. My daughter's in the PLEMI program. Very excited to be here, and really excited to hear about the renovations that you're doing with the curriculum, as well as building a new research center. So this is going to sound a little strange, but I'm sure many in the room, if they're a parent or a student in the med school, will be interested. There are some medical schools out there that are moving to, basically free tuition. I'm just wondering, what the thought is by Brown, because I'm looking at 8 years. I'm in my first year, made my payment, but just trying to understand, if that is on your agenda or something that's being thought about.
Yeah, yeah. So, Dean Hampton. No, I'm kidding. I got it. Actually, so in all seriousness, it's a great question, and I just want you to know that we work very hard, and Kaylee, you just heard, is our head of advancement. We are constantly looking for ways from our alums, from other sources, to support our students. We have not had the luck that some institutions, NYU is the classic example, right? I would estimate, I think NYU was close to $600 million in total funding. I think 450 came from one source and 150 from multiple other sources to make tuition, medical school tuition free. Would we love to do that? Oh my God, it would be the most amazing thing. Are we working hard to identify sources? Maybe we can't get to complete tuition free, but as much support as we can, absolutely. It's a big part of what we do. In the end, we raise resource for two reasons: education and the academics or the research mission. And so I hear you as a parent who had a child that went through medical school and paid tuition for 8 years, undergrad medical school, and 4 for the other. Whatever we can do to minimize the impact on students and families, we would like to do.
Thank you.
All right, I am told that it is time and that I am standing in the way of everybody's glass of wine. So I want to, again, really very sincerely thank everyone for being here. Thank you all for your questions, which is fabulous. And look forward to continuing the conversation outside at the reception.